Erik Ruark is here, Director of Research and Public Relations at NumbersUSA. He's already done the deep dive into Tim Walz and his failed border record. Erik, good afternoon. Great to have you here on the show. Just a 35,000-foot view on what the voter needs to know out of the gates about Tim Walz and his border on the record.
Well, I think voters probably aren't all that familiar with Walz, but he does have a record, both in Congress and as the governor of Minnesota. And so we give out grades to each member of Congress on their voting record. And Walz earned a D over his career. And that's, he didn't start out too bad when he first came into Congress, but he got progressively worse. And he ended up in his last term, 2018, 2019, he had an F-, which puts him on par with what Harris's career grade is. And he's basically moved to where the Democratic Party has gone on immigration, which is opposing enforcement, both interior and at the border, and voting for increases in legal emissions and voting for increases in guest workers. And so from our position, which is we think immigration policy should benefit the American people first and foremost, Tim Walz has voted in a way which goes against those principles in our opinion.
So what is the thing, Erik, when it comes to either his time in Congress or his time as the governor, that the Trump campaign should really focus and hone in on that you think will most connect with the American people?
Well, I think the sanctuary policies that he put in place when he was the governor are something that the Trump campaign is going to go after, particularly signing a bill that gave state driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. And if there's lots of clips of Governor Walz saying, he doesn't think that Minnesota should cooperate with the federal immigration authorities when it comes to enforcing immigration law, that's not the state's business. And that's a position that the states can take. But it's one thing to say, we're not going to cooperate for whatever reason. It's another thing to put impediments up, which he did. And I think that's the challenge for the Trump campaign when you have Harris and Walz. And Harris certainly isn't making much of her time as the border czar. In fact, she's not going to acknowledge that was ever a thing. But the Trump campaign has to do more than just point out how bad the Biden-Harris administration has been on the border and articulate a policy platform. I think by picking J.D. Vance, that goes a long way to having someone who's really good on the policy and really good on explaining what a Trump administration can do. Because what we've seen is sort of teetering back and forth. When you have an executive who wants to enforce the law, we get less illegal immigration. When we have Biden who came in, we have historical proportions. And you really can't compare what we've seen under the Biden administration when it comes to illegal immigration to any other administration. This is, as we say, unprecedented. And there's nothing to compare each month to other than previous months of the Biden administration. And that's the problem is we have these swings depending on who's in the office. You have to be able, whoever's the president, if you want lasting fix, you have to work with Congress. Not that the president can't secure the border, but Congress has to rein in an executive like a President Biden or what we would anticipate President Harris would do, which is to simply open the border up and to ignore laws that are on the books.
Yeah, absolutely. Erik Ruark is joining us, Director of Research and Public Relations at NumbersUSA. I'm Pete Mundo, in for Vince Coglianese. You mentioned the ability of J.D. Vance to really articulate policy on this. I want to play a clip from this morning, Erik, when J.D. Vance was in Detroit, and he was asked about, hey, illegal immigration is only like 1% of the population in Michigan. What's the big deal? Let's play cut to J.D. Vance, and then I'll get your response, Erik.
I'd say that, interestingly, legal immigrants often suffer the most from illegal immigration. If you look at the effect on legal immigrants' wages, if you look at the jobs that they're working in, and if you look at the communities that they're living in that are most affected by the public safety problems caused by illegal immigration, my message to legal immigrants was, one, we love to have you. You're very welcome. And we're happy that you came through the proper channels. But this illegal immigration problem is very often it falls hardest on legal immigrants more than anybody else. And so my message is our anti-illegal immigration platform is actually going to make your life better. It's going to make your wages go up. It's going to make public safety in your communities better. Look, I'm married to the daughter of legal immigrants. I do believe in my heart that legal immigration can enrich this country, but not illegal immigration, which is what Kamala Harris has done all over this country. It's made us less safe. It's driven down wages for working Americans, and it's made our communities less prosperous. We've got to stop this craziness. President Trump and I are going to do it.
That's J.D. Vance this morning in Detroit. Erik Ruark, Director of Research at NumbersUSA. Is that the kind of articulation you're looking for?
Well, yes, exactly. And he's pointing out the obvious fact, and it's lost on a lot of people, that those who compete most directly with new immigrants are recent immigrants. And that's why we've seen Hispanic voters move increasingly towards the Republican Party. It's because of enforcement. And Donald Trump did a lot better, and we're anticipating that he will do very well with Hispanic voters because of his immigration stance, because Hispanic voters, particularly those who are in the working class, are like other American workers. They want an immigration system which doesn't harm their economic prospects. And it goes beyond wages. It goes to housing costs. It goes to communities, safe communities. It goes to all of the things that voters want. That's a policy platform when you're talking about immigration. We can't have a functioning legal immigration system if we don't have the rule of law, and certainly if we don't have a secure border. And that's what Americans understand is we welcome immigrants, but we have to have limits, and we have to have the ability to enforce those limits.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, how much do you think the Trump-Vance ticket should focus on this Tim Walz record versus just pointing out, hey, Kamala Harris was the border czar, and this is what's happened the last 3.5 years? What do you think they should really focus on of those two, or is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. I don't think, no matter how hard the Harris campaign tries, that they're going to be able to get away from immigration and her role. She didn't address the root causes because the number one root cause were the policies put in place by the Biden-Harris administration. People knew that if they came to the border, overwhelmingly, they were going to be released into the United States. That was the number one root cause. And so even if the border was shut down today, and illegal immigration has gone down somewhat, but it's still at record highs. And if no one came tomorrow, there would still be 7 to 8 million people who have come in so far illegally under the Biden administration. And so I do think that you want to concentrate on that and point that out, but you can't just say Biden-Harris administration was terrible, we'll do better. Again, you have to articulate something, but what you can point to are policies put in place by the Harris-Biden administration, but also the person that Vice President Harris picked as her running mate is someone who has shown nothing but contempt for the rule of law and has shown no concern for the effect on American workers, on the communities in his state. He's voted for more guest workers. He voted against enforcement, and he voted for amnesty. Those are things that Walz has done, and that shows that we're only going to get more of the same under a Harris-Walz administration.
Erik Ruark, Director of Research and Public Relations at NumbersUSA. Erik, great job. Thank you so much for being here on WMAL. We appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.